Thanks for joining us in Heart, Soul, and Joy by PODCASTZ Lancaster. Thanks to our sponsors, ERX Contracting and Solutions by CAT, Marketing and Advertising with Passion. This has been For Your Info Podcasts.
I'm Jessica King, Executive Director of Assets, and a quick thank you to Solutions by CAT and For Your Info Podcast. They've been recording all of these series for us, so thank you so much. If anybody has questions about being recorded, just see them after the breakfast. So welcome, happy Tuesday on such a rainy sort of, cold Lancaster Tuesday. But I walked in this morning with such a sense of gratitude for this conversation, for those of you who came out for this morning, that you're interested in this topic, that there are businesses that are doing things in interesting, compelling, exciting ways, piece by piece, all over the world, for new business models. Just feeling very, very much a sense of gratitude, and that we're here and that we have the opportunity to show up for something like this and eat food and have a conversation, and that our needs are met in a way that we can do this. It's actually pretty phenomenal. Just take a moment to kind of think about all of the things we have to be grateful for. So with that, I want to ask you each to describe your business, what you do, how long you've been in it, your number of employees, and the mission of your business.
Well, good morning. It's good to see you all here today. And again, I'm Peter Barber. I'm with Two Dudes Painting Company. My partner and I started Two Dudes Painting Company 28 years ago, and as most good things start, it was started out of desperation. I was a student at Franklin and Marshall College at the time, and needed to earn some dollars for college. I had an unexpected event with my girlfriend coming home telling me she's pregnant, and so we have to figure out a way to kind of get through the remaining 3 years I had of college. And so that started the dudes. Like, we'd been looking around for something to have that I could create a flexible schedule and still do something that was going to earn me some dollars. And I was probably the only college student that was clamoring for the 8 a.m. classes, because then I could get to class at 8 o'clock and then get to work by 11 o'clock and still get a full day of work in. And so for the remaining 3 years of F&M, I was running the business full time. And that created some interesting challenges along the way, but it also taught me a lot about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how things are moving forward. Certainly didn't have the intention of this being the ultimate goal of things, but at the end of it all, realized that, hey, there was this little business that got started, and it was working pretty good. And so now, 28 years later, we have a field staff of 40 painters. There's 8 of us that work in our office to manage and maintain things. We started out doing primarily residential house painting, but now we're doing, residential house painting. We have a 13,000 square foot shop that we bring all kinds of stuff in and out of there just about every day. We do some pretty significant commercial painting and industrial painting as well. And somehow or another, that all makes sense. And it all makes sense in context of that there's meaning behind what we're doing, that somehow there's joy. There is heart, soul, and joy in being a painter, which I never would have anticipated when I started doing this. But I think that really goes to the core of how you really determine how you're going to run your business. I mean, whether you're a painting contractor or a restaurateur or a cookie maker, it's like you find ways to do things in meaningful ways that are meaningful to you and meaningful to the people in the community around you. And I think that's really the core of what we're here and what we're talking about. And I think it's it's that classic, you choose the mindset that you bring to anything that you do, and if you choose the appropriate mindset, you can find meaning and value in it, and that's really at the heart of what we try to do every day and what we try to instill in our staff.
Hello everybody, I'm Sri. I started Upahar 2011, 4 years ago, and we started as a catering company. And I started the business because there are many things I could do, but I didn't want to do anything that I could do anymore. I just wanted something new and different that was of consequence. So I guess I had a midlife crisis when I was in my and and I'd been looking for something that would be relevant. So it was a long journey to kind of get to this point. I sat with the idea of, okay, there are many skills and talents and background and expertise that I bring. How could it be utilized in such a way that it makes a difference? So the catalyst was Muhammad Yunus, who spoke at the annual chamber dinner in 2008. We had just moved to Lancaster, and I knew about his work, and I wrangled away. I was like, I need to do whatever, volunteer. Tell me what you need me to do. I'll volunteer. I need to hear him speak. So I heard him speak, and I was familiar with his work with microfinance, but he spoke about social capitalism, and it was not something I'd heard of before. And so when he mentioned that, using a for-profit business to solve a social problem, it hooked me. It grabbed me, and I remember thinking, there's something here that I can use. I don't know what. And at that time, I had also just started my job at F&M. We had arrived here. I had just started my job, and here was this idea that you could use a for-profit business model to do something of consequence. So the timing wasn't quite right, and it took me 2 years to read his book. But when I did, things kind of started coming together. Around the same time, I learned about the refugee population in Lancaster City, County, that we have about 500 new people resettle in this area every year. So one day, I cannot describe the process, that just came together like an aha moment. And I was like, yes, I can do this. This problem that I will solve is to provide employment opportunities for people who would otherwise have difficulty finding work because they don't speak the language, because they're new to the country, they have skills. And so how can I use the skills that they have without making language a requirement or minimizing that, and put it all together in a domain that I'm interested in? And it really came together. Why? Food. Everybody, women know how to cook. And if I'm not teaching them their recipes, they're cooking their own food. It just happened. So I was like, all right, on paper, this is a good idea. Let me try it out and run it by some other people and see what they think. So everybody that I spoke with was very enthusiastic and said, yeah, start it tomorrow. I was like, no, I don't have a background in food. I know software. I know how to do strategic alliances with big multinational companies, but I don't know anything about running a food shop. So in the spirit of experiment, because one of the things he said, Muhammad Yunus, was, I forget the wording, but it was like a challenge, like, join me in this experiment. And so in the spirit of experiment, I started a catering company with the intention of providing two things. So the name Upahar means gift in Bengali, so it's a gift of food, unusual and distinctive food for the community that you wouldn't get anywhere else, and a gift of employment for those who would otherwise have difficulty finding work. And so Upahar was born. And so along the ways, we learned, there were all kinds of unanticipated challenges, because the ones I anticipated did not materialize. And one of the biggest things was if we were to provide employment, then the catering model was not aligned with that. It wasn't mission aligned. It was the hours were too erratic, did not provide steady work. And so last year, we started the restaurant, which would guarantee regular hours for all of the employees, and while we still retain, employment and food, and anchor the catering business in some way. So in the spirit of experiment, we continue. I don't have a set vision for where it might evolve, other than flourishing in this mission of job creation and meaningful job creation where people who work there know that they are not just receiving, but they are actually contributing something of consequence to them, their family recipes, or they make the business their own.
My name is Jenny, and I am so thrilled to be here representing the Stroopy Cookie Company. And I don't know how many of you heard me give my presentation at the Great Social Enterprise Pitch, but basically Jess did a great job of describing what a Stroopy is, and I brought some today for you guys to take home, so please take them home and try it at home. But at the heart of our company is that we were birthed to provide meaningful employment for the refugees that are resettling in Lancaster. And we started in 2008, and it's been quite a journey since then. I kind of thought that, when you start a business, it just, in my naivety, that, it just kind of happens. But I am realizing that it is a journey, and if you can just enjoy the process of it, it's going to go much better. So, currently we have 3 refugee employees working for us, 2 wonderful women from Iraq, and a lady from Burma that just started, and we just recently hired a full-time manager who is an ESL teacher. And then at lunchtime, lunch is probably my favorite part of our days because we all take a break for lunch, and what has happened is that everybody brings a dish from their home country to share, and it's just been an awesome time to share our stories. And then after lunch, Adrian takes the ladies and they have an English lesson together, and it has just been our deepest delight, and it's brought joy to our days to hire these women. And I always said that it has to be something more than just making cookies. I mean, I love our product. I mean, I think stroopwafels are awesome. I totally know we have to have the best product that we can have. But what really brings motivation to me is being able to work with these women and these amazingly precious people that are resettling among us. And I have so many stories that I could tell, but I have been really enjoying getting to know Mary. Two of our refugee employees actually are our neighbors as well. We live in Old Dorwart Street in Lancaster, and so we all live together. But just to hear their stories and get to know them better has just been such a delight. But Mary came from Burma, and she absolutely loves making stroopies. And I just find that so heartwarming. She has been just so open in telling her stories. And in Burma, she would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and cook and prepare for the day. And in the dark, she tells me, because there wasn't electric. And then she would walk 2 hours to work to cut firewood. And then sometimes there wouldn't be work, but sometimes she would work all day doing this and then come back. So we've been trying really hard to make it like good jobs for the folks that we're hiring. And so I'll say, Mary, are you tired? Or, is there anything we can do to make this better for you? And she says, oh, Jenny, this is the best job that I've ever had. And I just absolutely love what I'm doing. And I think it's just made me really grateful. I think sometimes we take things for granted that, we don't realize the privilege, right, that we have. And just hearing the stories of these women that are coming just makes it all worth it for me.
I'm going to jump right to the heart of it. Each of you does, in your businesses, I know personally, we haven't elaborated on a lot of those things, but each of you does things sort of that aren't status quo business practices, whether it's your training methodology, whether it's who you hire, whether it's what you pay for the kind of work, whether it's the kind of training that you can provide on the work site that doesn't actually connect to the job, whatever it is, there are things that you do that aren't business as usual. Can you talk about what, like at the deepest level, what has motivated you to do that? Why in the world would you choose to do that when it probably costs more, when it takes more effort, when it's harder, when you don't know if it's going to work? What motivates you at a pretty deep level?
I get to start all the answers now?
Good luck. You can pass it down if you're magic.
Oh, yeah, it's magic. I'm sorry. It's a magic. I'm done. I think ultimately, at its purest form, it's not like this huge human rights issue, but it's just like a very personal human rights issue that we each, that I truly believe, and I've been fortunate to start this business, probably out of less than ideal circumstances, but to create something that's meaningful and sustaining to me, and see that I have an obligation to do that to everyone else that works for me. I mean, not that this is the most meaningful thing for all of them, but at least to give them the opportunity to have meaning from their employment, and have them have an opportunity to have sustainable and ongoing opportunities in what they're doing. And some people value it and love it, and they're appreciative. I don't have people telling me it's the best job they've ever had. They absolutely love their work. I'd love to have that. But we certainly do have people that are extremely appreciative of what we've provided and the things that we do. And so we pay people probably a little bit more than most other painting contractors do. And we have the contracting business, whether it's painting or concrete work or drywall work, it's notoriously exploitive for a system of subcontractors and not regular employment and varying work times and no benefits and all that kind of stuff. And we've always said, hey, if we're going to have people working for us and have expectations of what we have of them, they have a right to have expectations of us. And among those expectations are an expectation to make enough money to survive on, to be able to have adequate access to health care, to have adequate access to even banking things. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable the types of things that we've had to do in order to provide kind of a baseline level of employment for people. It's just something as simple as we have an automatic payroll system that automatically deposits into people's bank. Well, that's a huge hassle for people because we had a bunch of people that couldn't get bank accounts, and for all kinds of reasons that they've had throughout their lives. So we negotiated with our bank, and our bank understood the fact that, hey, look, we're putting the system in place for very meaningful and effective reasons for our business operations. You need to guarantee bank accounts for all of our guys. So they said, okay, fine, we'll guarantee bank accounts for anybody that works for you, because we know that that they have good, solid employment. We know they're going to get a paycheck on a regular basis. Now, believe me, it's not without its hassles, and it's not without its bumps along the road and having to go back and renegotiate things every once in a while. But again, it's just, I think one of the things that we all need to be tremendously appreciative of is that we come to all this stuff as business owners, and you folks as people that have an interest in this, you kind of know how to solve problems and have the capacity and even some connections that help you solve what are kind of seemingly simple problems. But there's lots of folks that don't have that capacity to do that, and that are good people, that are good workers, that might be here. I mean, the two of you are dealing with people that are just coming to this country in refugee situations, so everybody kind of gets that. But you know what? There's thousands upon thousands of people that live here that are in just as bad straits and that don't understand how to do things. And that's not all of our employees, believe me. I mean, we've got people that have come to this, in a completely different stand. But there's still this baseline kind of churn of our entry-level employees that take a tremendous amount of training, a tremendous amount of hand-holding in order to help them succeed. And if we can get into that from, it's everywhere from kids that are just graduating from high school to adults that have not really found how to kind of ground themselves and have solid, stable employment, that we can give them a home that they're comfortable with, a home that they can depend on, and somebody that they know is caring about them in a way, and that it's something that ultimately I can feel really proud of the relationship that I have with everybody that works with us. Not everybody else, not everybody always feels the same way, but it's like, I know at the end of the day, I have a clear mind and conscience and heart about the efforts that we're making in order to help people succeed.
At the heart of it, why do I do what I do? It's like gardening. For me, you plant a seed and then you wait and miracle happens. And so I do what I do to create a space, the opportunity for people to step into it and become who they want to become. That's what motivates me and inspires me and keeps me going through all of the difficulties we have. And so some people come because it's a stepping stone to whatever it is that they want to go on to do. We had one woman who was a teacher in Iraq, and when she came here, she spoke no English at all. So for her, it was a job that she could do and earn while she worked to learn English and get whatever certification she needed. And she, this spring, in 2015, graduated from Upahar, and now she works at the school district. Then there are other people who want to cook, who either had a catering business or a restaurant in their home countries, or there are people who never had any professional background. So it's being able to create the space and say, step into it and make it what you want to, become who you want to, and I will support, and we will collectively together support you in your journey. That is magic. That is magic, to see people who come in one way and then transform into someone else. And the other thing we do, so we do pay more than, we pay double minimum wage, and I put people in positions of authority from day one. If you take this job, then these are the responsibilities that come with the work, and you are in charge. And if you will accept the responsibility, then step in, and if not, that's okay too. So I am not there during the day managing the operations. Each person in their specific position runs the shop. So the cook's job is to make sure she has all the ingredients she needs to cook everything she wants. And if she forgets, she knows she cannot call me, because I'm not going to drive from my day job to get her cilantro. Like, oh, you forgot? Well, either do without or walk to Giant and get yourself some cilantro. So, once in a while they might forget, and then they won't. Then they'll call each other and say, can you please help? Like last night, the woman who's in charge of all the shopping and the catering, she sent me a text saying, "Ma'am, I forgot to buy bananas. Do you want me to go buy it now?" I was like, "No, that's okay, I'll get it for you, but you remembered, thank you." So that's I think important, because it's not just a job. I want them to make it their own, and so that allows them to, or provides them with the opportunity to really engage if they want to. And some people are not ready for it, because many times they're just in survival mode, and all they need or want is a job and employment and money so they can just get grounded. But over time, I have seen in different ways, in their own time, because gardening happens, in its own time. You cannot hasten that little seed to germinate. It'll do it when it wants to. So similarly, each person and in their own time has changed. And when I see that, it's like, this is why I do what I do.
So before we started working with the Stroopy business, my husband and I led worship in a local congregation and with music. And we felt like this nudge from God just to say, what would it look like if you took this worship for me and love for others out of the four walls of the church? I mean, it's a good thing, but what would it look like if you would take this love for me and love for others outside of the traditional walls of the church. And this is what motivates me, my love for God and my love for others. And it's been really interesting to see how this has started looking for us. We run my husband and I run the Stroopy, our own partners of the Stroopy company, but we also are landlords in our block of Old Dorwart Street where we live. We have 29 units and just serve whoever we can. And I feel like this journey has just really been so delightful to be on. Just what worship to God looks like outside of the traditional context of just like leading worship with song, which is awesome. All 4 of my kids are musicians, and we still have lots of music in our home. But what does this look like? So when I have it totally figured out, I'll let you know. But that's definitely what motivates us.
So have any of you ever operated your businesses, this business or any other businesses, without that kind of motivation, without that kind of focus? And if you did, was it different? And how? If you haven't, if this is the way that you've always done it, do you ever doubt your business model and think about dropping some of the mission and intent and just focusing on the bottom line, straight up profit?
One of the interesting consequences kind of our modern connected world. So I get, you get your LinkedIn profile, and they're like, you can improve your LinkedIn profile if you talk about your past employment. I'm like, I have no past employment. This is like the only thing I've ever done. It's like, this is like, boost your score. And I'm like, oh, well, I can't quite do that. So, although I can't say that I've ever worked for something that had a different model, but certainly in the early years of the Dudes, we didn't have. That was pure survival time for myself and my partner, and but even at that time, it's interesting when I reflect back on what we were doing and how we were doing things. We didn't have employees to be doing things with. We didn't have that, but we always had a sense of connection to the community that we lived in, and even in the small ways that we possibly could at that time, we were very involved and connected with things. Whether it was just very, and I remember when Buchanan Park was taking down the towers and putting in the new playground up there. It's like, and this was probably back in 1991 or 2, and being at the park and donating time at the park, and we were painting fences and doing things like that. That again, it's like, we were barely making enough money to survive, but we still saw that, the opportunity to help in the community we lived in is really, well, this isn't Dude's time. This is just my time. This is my community time, and being involved with things. So that's always been an integral part of stuff. And while you certainly have these crazy fantasies every once in a while, it's like, well, what would it mean just to really focus on this bottom line issue? And it's like, I don't know that would be fulfilling or satisfying or motivating for us to get things done. I think the mantra that we have, my partner and I have every year, kind of at the end of the year, we reconcile where we're at and what's going on. It's like, next year is going to be the year. That's going to be the year that we really make our big money and get, and it's like, and that just keeps moving. We've said that for 28 years now, and we've certainly succeeded and have moved forward and have created a comfortable life for ourselves. But I think at the same time, our expectations of what our commitment to the community is continues to grow and grow and grow. And so whether that evidence itself with the ways that we've leveraged our business to have an impact in the community, whether it's doing things, with the YWCA, or doing things with the chamber, or doing things whatever, or for me personally to find some fulfillment in different ways through a lot of the volunteerism that I do. It all comes back to this business has given this tremendous opportunity to create things in our lives, and to create different opportunities beyond slinging a brush every day. If that's what I was doing, if my goal was just to be painting a brush, right? I mean, I'd be tired of that quickly, but we've been able to find a way to leverage all this other stuff and give ourselves the opportunity to do things, give our employees the opportunity to do things, and that's when it really becomes successful and really becomes rewarding when our employees start to see the things that we've done and they start to emulate those as well. And we have a big emphasis on volunteerism and trying to encourage people to do things. And when we see them going out and saying, hey, look, I'm trying to do this thing with my church, can you help me support that? And that's like right on. That's exactly what we want to be doing. And that's when we find some real measure of success.
Well, before this work that I do now, I worked in the software industry. I grew up in the software industry. So I worked there for almost 15 years. And at first, it was fun. But then, as I was climbing the corporate ladder and making more money and things were getting more hectic, as I said earlier, I had my midlife crisis. Because I was like, what's the point to this? If I'm working all the time and making all this money, when am I going to enjoy life? And is it of consequence that the software that I'm building, perhaps it is useful, but surely there's something else that could be more useful or meaningful. So it was quite the crisis. And so what was the question? That have I done something that didn't have a heart? I think, yeah. So that's why I left, because my heart wasn't in it. And I could do the work, but I just didn't want to. And the work that I do now is very, very hard, but it keeps me going because my heart's in it. So there's that word, heart. And then when I see people blossom, there's joy. Mm-hmm. So would I go back to just focusing on a business that is just deals with a single bottom line, just money? I don't think I can. I would rather close the business than just be money oriented. There's only one life, and that's not how I want to live it.
Yeah, so the Stroopy Company is my first experience with working with a business like this. So I can't really speak to prior jobs, but it definitely is my motivation and our motivation as a company to be serving the folks that we're providing employment for. And it's really interesting as we look, part of what we're exploring now is the B Corp certification. I don't know if you folks know what that is, but it's basically, putting legal things in place so that if the business were to be sold, that our desire to employ refugees would remain in the business. And so, that really starts to, that gets to the core of our heart motivation, right? So, I'm totally there. That's what I want. And I believe that the other owners as well want to be there. But we're like laying a foundation for what the future of our business is going to look like when we put those ramifications in place. And I don't know exactly how that works, because some of the soul that I feel, can I transfer that to another owner if we would ever sell it? I hope we don't have to sell it for forever, but eventually, how does that work in a business? I think these are some of the questions I have. Can you legally put soul into a business? Maybe you folks, can you help me answer my question? Yeah.
So in this book, Judy Wicks actually talks about when she sold her business that she started, the White Dog Cafe, she actually built in into the sales agreement, like they could keep the name, but it was contingent on certain values that they would follow that she sort of pioneered and run by for 30 years. So she sort of did build it in and say, if you want this business, this is what you need to do to keep the name. And yeah, so interesting. I thought that was the first time I had heard about that. Yeah, definitely read the book. So one more question that I have, and then I'd love to have you all weigh in with any other questions that you have for them before we wrap up. What sustains you in this work? What people or practices do you engage with that keep you going when times get tough?
Well, I think one of the things that really sustains me is just seeing the possibilities that there are, and seeing that if we could take this little germ of an idea of trying to create this painting business out of desperation and create what we have now, which is almost 50 employees that are working for us. How looking at the opportunities to help create that and create bigger and better opportunities for other people. And whether we're doing that through, I'm very involved in the chamber right now. In fact, next year I'll chair the chamber board. So it's creating this really interesting opportunity to leverage the entire business community of Lancaster in ways that maybe they haven't in the past. And so it's, and again, that's without some tremendous challenges, but it's, and I just think of how crazy this whole notion is that, this little business that started that we barely survived with, and now being able to be in this role of helping to shape and influence kind of the broader base of discussion of the entire business community. I mean, that's really, really powerful for me, and it's really rewarding for me to be able to see that can happen. And it's kind of really scary about the responsibilities that carries with it. But and that's so while it's very motivating, it's also the stuff that keeps you awake at night and tries to make you understand and really appreciate what and question what ultimately is our role here. I mean, I don't think at the end of the day my role was not to be here running a painting business. I mean, that's not the higher purpose that I'm here for. I think the higher purpose that I'm here for is all this other stuff that's going on. But in the midst of all the other stuff that's going on, you have to find a way to sustain yourself and your family and your life. And so you have found that good way to do that, and a solid way to do that I actually get some joy out of. But how do you take that and move it forward into a bigger way? So
what sustains me is what I learned between the software work that I did and what I'm doing now. So for 5 years, I had a coaching practice, and it was an integral coaching model that taught me to be whole and human, that I have a body in addition to a head. And so one of the things I remind myself to do is to remember that I have a body. Before the business kind of got off to this frenzy that I'm in the middle of right now, I would garden and to work with my hands and to witness the time that it takes for things to grow. There was like a daily reminder of the nature of time and how things move and how things evolve. And so I try to engage in those kinds of practices that are completely different from the business. So gardening is one, although right now my garden is a disaster. I need professional help to get it all cleaned up so I can start again. The other one is dancing, and I used to call dancing my my moving meditation, because the dance that I do is that I love is Argentine tango, and there is no formula. It's totally improvisation, and so you have to be totally focused on your partner and the music to know, to sense, to feel, not to know, to sense where the lead is, where it's going, and to follow. So you cannot anticipate. You have to be in the moment, and you have to respond to what shows up. What better practice than that to kind of have, to respond to what shows up in life and business? I haven't danced in a long time. I need to dance more. So things that, and then the other thing is to remind myself that this is an experiment. I have no answers. And in the spirit of experiment, try something. And if it doesn't work, pay attention to what is, what worked, what didn't, and try again. And so when things are going really, really badly, that's when I say, okay, remember now, this is an experiment. So this particular experiment didn't work. Let's reconfigure and try another one.
I was just thinking about what has motivated me, and Shri has been one of those people that have motivated me. Just seeing others that are experimenting with things and trying things and not giving up when the going gets hard. The other thing that has been extremely motivating and empowering to the Stroopy Company is just going through the great social enterprise pitch process. I see Melody sitting there too. Like it just to work at something and pour your heart and soul into something. You know, there have been many days where sometimes we thought, are we crazy? Like, do we have a good idea? Is this idea going to work? I mean, and we're still asking those questions. But to go through the class with others that were in the same journey and to really work through our idea and to present to a crowd of people and a panel of judges and to hear affirmation to say, we think that this is a good idea and that this can work. Really, really, really was, I can't thank you guys enough, because that, we all need cheerleaders, right? People that like believe in us when we sometimes wonder, right? So, and then just a little plug too. Right now, Lancaster is doing a little Christmas pop-up shops. If you guys haven't been down to Prince Street, Crystal, I see sitting here, they've set up this beautiful little Christmas village on Prince Street. It's just beautiful. It looks like a little European little town. And we have a little Stroopy hut or shed or whatever you want to call it in this village. And the opening weekend was this past weekend. And we were so overwhelmed by how Lancaster responded to Stroopies. On Friday night, there was a huge line, just lined up out to Prince Street to get fresh, warm Stroopies, and we sold $3,600 worth of product in our opening weekend. And our biggest thing that we've done throughout the years is go to this German market up close to New York City, and we're going there this weekend. And we sell the Stroopies like crazy. It's like the perfect setting, and we work as hard as we can, and we just sell them like crazy. But to have, and that's awesome, but to be so warmly received in our home city of Lancaster was just completely overwhelming. And, I was like, man, this is gonna work. So I just sat back a little bit. I just took a little break on, Friday? And I was watching Mary make Stroopies, the lady from Burma that's working with us, and our manager describing to people. I was just watching it work, and everybody's so excited about our product, and I was just thank you, God, because it was just so encouraging. So these things motivate us. So if you haven't been down at the Christmas Little Village, I'm putting a little plug in for that. Because we all need times where, encouragement, right?
Thank you all so much. I loved each of your answers. Just beautiful. And Sharia, I really want to. Well, I'm a Mennonite, so you can't shake that out very much to go dancing. At least that's been my experience. But I had this overwhelming desire to go dancing with you. It's a little scary. Anyway, so what questions do you have? Anything? Marlon.
Yeah, I'd be curious with two dudes. Obviously, not everyone you hire comes in with the skill of painting the way it sounds. So do you have a training program for those persons to learn how to run a beautiful bead and how to paint smoothly or spray and so forth? And the second part of that would be then how do you transfer your strategic thinking and your values then as you get larger, 40, 50 employees, to what you guys really believe?
No, those are great questions. And this past summer has been one of our most challenging summers in terms of trying to train and staff for the demands of our business. And we had this great fortune of landing a very significant contract midway through the summer. And we were confronted with this issue of we needed to immediately hire about 15 new staff people. And middle of the summer is not a good time to try to hire tradesmen because the trades are a very cyclical business. I mean, in the winter it's slow, in the spring it gets really busy, and that's when most of the hiring happens, and then you sustain yourself through the fall. So in the middle of the summer, quite honestly, pickings are a little slim for potential employees. And we needed to hire a whole range of people. We needed skilled people all the way down to we could take apprentice level people. This project that we had did not require a high level of skill. And so we really had to assess how we do things. I mean, typically our hiring process is a deliberately very, very slow process because one of our biggest challenges is that we're not contained in one manufacturing plant or that we have oversight. We're at remote locations all the time and often without a whole lot of supervision. So we need to make sure that we know who we hired and have responsible leadership there. And so therefore we have this very slow process that's, come in and work with other people, do that, and it had to change in order for us to fulfill our obligations. So kind of revamped our entire hiring process and in a very quick fashion. But in order to do that, we had to totally revamp our training processes. And so we brought in our team leaders. We have 5 different team leaders that manage anywhere from 5 to 8 people, and got them as part of the process and said, look, here's the opportunity that we have in front of us to take on this big project, but we need your assistance in order to make this happen. We have to have very intensive training over a period of time. So we hired on these 15 people and then developed a really intense 4-week training program that was they came in 3 days a week for about 2 hours each morning and had very specific training on different areas. And the first week of the training was all about culture and all about our belief system. And so before we did anything, before anybody had a paintbrush in their hand, they got this real intensive training on culture. And it started, the first day was myself and my partner. And it sounds so fundamental, but it's really important that people understand the history of what we're doing. I mean, they heard basically everything I just told you this morning. They heard that and more about what we're doing and what we believe in and why we're here and what the purpose of our existence is. And that opens some eyes because we're hiring some real entry-level people and people that, quite honestly, are people that we wouldn't give a thought of under normal circumstances. And these are all for reasons. I mean, it might be, they don't have driver's license, they have, past history of bad employment or whatever. And we're like, okay, well, we've got to find, everybody has, and I don't want to paint a picture that we're hiring bad people because we're not hiring bad people, but we were taking a lot of chances. My partner who does all the final interviewing and stuff is like, we'd sit down and say, well, is this somebody that we want to take a chance with? And it's like, well, where's he at now? And just because he has this 5 years ago in his history, where's he at now? And how can we validate what his purpose and what his vision is now? And that has been extremely rewarding, and we've gotten some really fabulous people out of the situation. We've had some people that have fallen away, and that's going to be the case just about wherever you're at. But by changing that hiring process, and then really the crux of it was the training. So it's this one intense week of culture, and then it got into an intense week of safety, and then two weeks of practical skill training. And then a lot of it's on the job stuff, but and what's great is that beyond that first week of culture, myself or my partner were not leading any of the training. It was our staff that was leading the training, and it was our staff that then would have these people working with them out in the field. So it created the buy-in on both sides of the equation, because we had a big conversation with our staff and said, look, we're going to be hiring these 15 unexperienced people to work with you. And I'm like, no, don't do that. It's like, we've got enough apprentice level people. We've got enough going on. We're extremely busy. I don't want to have to watch over these people. It's like, well, look, here's the opportunities that we have, and this is going to help our business succeed and potentially take us to the next level with these other relationships. And we need you to buy into the whole process. So by making it a very collective experience, it's not just a top-down. Sure, we provided the leadership and provided them. They came up with a curriculum for this training as well, which was really important. We sat down and said, okay, what are the most important fundamental pieces that you need your staff to have when they're out in the field? Well, it's this, and this. We're like, well, there you go. We got training number 4, 5, 6, and 7. Perfect.
Piggybacking off of the question about training for Jenny and Sri, how do you guys handle training when you have refugees that speak different languages, and even communication between those employees? How does that work from a training standpoint and from a continued work atmosphere standpoint between employees?
For those people who don't speak any English at all, I hire translators so that at the beginning, my goal is to make sure they understand the new standards and expectations in this country. Health codes and customer expectations and the job expectations, what their rights and responsibilities are, because they're coming from a completely different environment, and I want to make sure that they understand that baseline. So I will hire translators so that that's covered. Then so once they know, once I feel that they're comfortable and it's on site, so we can say, okay, this is the washing sink. This is the process that you need to do. Do you understand why? And with or without a translator. So that's the kind of first step. And then after that, it is practice. Just to have. So if I'm not there, which I'm usually not there, to have a more experienced person. At the beginning, it was I hired somebody else to kind of provide that supervision, and now it's the more experienced team members who provide that supervision to say, these are the standards that we must uphold, otherwise the inspector will get us. So that's what we do in terms of training regarding the rules and regulations of this country. And then communication between team members who don't speak the same language, that's hard. And I usually let them figure it out. And it's interesting that what usually happens is if you have two people who speak the same language, then I try to pair them up, that one person speaks a little bit of English so can act as a translator for the other. But if you have groups of people who speak different languages, like toddlers, they do parallel play. They work together in parallel. They don't work with each other unless there's somebody else saying, you do this for her or you do that for her. They're unable to do that. But then over time, as they get comfortable, they start just like children, So that's how we do it, to make sure that they understand the basic requirements, and then after that to create the space so that they can evolve on their own time.
I would say for us it's pretty similar. Since we're primarily a wholesale company right now, out at the shop, we've set up the jobs that each person has to make them pretty simple and that people can learn by watching. And also by speaking very slowly and making sure that, the folks that we're hiring understand their job and what the expectations are. And then also, like right now, we currently have 2 employees from Iraq, and the one lady knows a bit more English, so she can, translate when we need translation. And yeah, it somehow works, but it is a little bit of a dance, figuring out. And that's also one of the reasons we really want to provide the English lessons as well, because whether or not they're working for us, or that's going to be part of their acclimation into, living here and living well here. So they need to be learning English. So as much as we can, we try to speak in English slowly, and, but sometimes there's something that we, just can't, there's a disconnect going on, so we need to be speaking in Arabic. I mean, I don't know any Arabic, but, thankfully some of our friends do.
Picture books and hand gestures.
Yeah.
I want to have the 3 of you close with just one word of advice or encouragement for those that are either running a business with heart, soul, and joy, or interested in doing more of that, or to customers in the room about why their purchasing decisions matter to your business model and how that helps sustain it. Just a word of encouragement.
So a term and a phrase that I've used for a long time about what we do in our business and why we do things in our business is that everything needs to come kind of with this pure and honest intent behind it. And if everything that we do and everything that we aspire to has a very pure and honest intent, then we can be successful, and our customers will value and appreciate that. And and we can really feel good about the work that we're doing. The other thing that I would say, though, is also to always be open to the possibilities. You just don't know how what we're doing now, how that's going to impact things going forward, and what those possibilities and how you can take the circumstances that you're in and create the environment and the possibilities all around you.
So for those who are in business or want to try something new, I say, give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? It won't work, so try again. You go.
I was going to say just something really similar, that, if you are business owners, I would just encourage you to be open to just, seeing how you can use your business. I know you already are, but I just, the refugee employees we're hiring they're so motivated, they're so excited to be working, and they're giving it their all. And I definitely think that it's worth the risk to give it a try. So,
Jonathan has a question.
No, I have just a quick plug. So to kind of piggyback on what these guys are saying, if you have a business and you're interested about how you can make this business more kind of intentionally impactful in the community, Assets is actually developing some tools for that and partnering with B Lab, which runs the B Corp certification, which has this really great assessment to test how your kind of environmental and social performance at the same level that you're testing your financial performance. Anyway, so we have some tools for that, so come talk to us. We'd love to help you. If you have ideas for social enterprises or for businesses that have kind of this social or environmental component, apply for the social enterprise pitch next year. You have about 2 or 3 months to pull your ideas together before the application process will begin. So we have actually opportunities and tools out there for you if you're kind of interested in investigating this further.
Amen to that. Thanks for the closing word. So we can't say we'll see you again next month, but do come back for these other programs. Or if you know people that are interested in these topics, let us know, because we really do want to keep encouraging and cheerleading businesses that have these ideas and figure out what are the tools, what are the financing, what are the resources, what are the certifications or marketing efforts that can help more of this work here in this community. So thank you all for coming, for your interest in this, and have a great rest of the holiday season. Take care.
Thanks for joining us in Heart, Soul, and Joy by Assets Lancaster. Thanks to our sponsors, ERX Contracting and Solutions by CAT, Marketing and Advertising with Passion. This has been For Your Info Podcasts.